So here it is. Pierre LeBrun, earlier this morning on Insider Trading, gave ourselves an update on the Montreal Canadiens. Let's dive into this tweet here. Pierre LeBrun says on Insider Trading, the Montreal Canadiens and Jake Evans are still far apart, and all signs point to a trade. However, the Habs are not interested in a third or a fourth rounder. The belief is they would like at least a second rounder and have told teams not to waste their time if the offer is less than that. Now, this is a pretty small tweet. Pretty small update too. But I wanted to dive into the Jake Evans trade conversation, not only because there are some people in the replies on this tweet that are getting a little bit, let's just say a little feisty about it, but because this entire conversation bleeds into some of the other notes that we had heard from earlier on this season. Now, Jake Evans has been in a pretty interesting spot because this has been the best year of his career. By the way, big shout out to Elite Prospects. Happy birthday, Brock Besser here, as they are listing on their website. But Jake Evans is 28 years old, 24-25 is the contract expiration, so he is a pending UFA, $1.7 million a year as a 6 feet, 185 right-handed center right wing, and he's got 27 points in 57 games played this year. He's on pace for a 39-point season and 16 goals. This would be a career high. Actually, I think he's only 2 points away from it tying his career high, but in 20-something fewer games, or maybe 15 fewer games. Is that the math correctly? Yes, I think it is 15. There you go. Lego doing math on the fly here. But Jake Evans is in a spot where this has been the best season of his career, even though he hasn't produced much in the past few games worth of play here. He's had 2 points in his last 6 games, and he also had a 5-game pointless streak before that, not to mention the other 2 points he had here against New York and Tampa before a really long pointless streak over there. The Canadiens were winning, Evans wasn't scoring. Certainly a diversion from what we had seen at the end of December, where the guy was on a pretty gnarly point streak. Jake Evans, though, even when he's not producing, still provides very solid value for the Montreal Canadiens, in part due to his penalty-killing prowess and his defensive acumen. He is one of the better bottom-six centers in the NHL, and if he can continue to produce at this sort of a clip over the next few years, there's reason to believe that some team would be willing to sign him to a pretty reasonable maybe a $3.2 or $3.5 million AAV on the market, and there's certainly value in a team wanting to acquire him for this year's playoff run. We had spoken about it quite a few times over the year, but if Jake Evans is on a Stanley Cup championship caliber team, he is probably a fourth-line center. But if you have him as a third-line guy, it's not the worst thing in the world. He is certainly one of the better ones, and he is one of the best penalty killers in the league as well. Him and Armia, we had talked about the idea of the Montreal Canadiens potentially packaging them together in a trade because they already have chemistry on the same line and the same penalty kill unit. They can do some pretty good work together, so would there be the potential for an NHL team to think about getting both of them in the same deal? But with Pierre LeBrun's update, it is interesting because this does not really align with some of the other information that we had seen over the past few months. Some other reporters were going out there and saying, hey, Montreal wants a first for Jake Evans. They want a top prospect and all this stuff, and they want to be able to build and retool on the fly, etc., etc. But with Pierre LeBrun saying that, yeah, they're still far apart, so it seems more likely that he gets traded. It's also interesting to note that the price does not seem to be in that first-round territory. Like, I'm sure if there was a team offering a first-round pick for Jake Evans, a trade probably would have already been done by now. It seems like, with the language that Pierre LeBrun's using, probably the Canadiens are getting a bunch of offers in the third and the fourth-round pick range. Who really knows? It seems like these teams could be saying, hey, Jake Evans, we'll give you a third for him. We'll give you a third and maybe a seventh for him. We'll give you a fourth and 2 sixths or something. We'll give you a fourth and a really interesting C+ prospect. And Montreal's like, sorry, we want a second. I mean, now that I think about it, is Jake Evans really the kind of player that would demand a first-round pick? Like, I can understand defensemen, top 4 defensemen, being acquired for a first-round pick. I could understand that because usually top 4 defensemen, they play, let's say, 17-plus minutes per game, and Jake Evans in a third-line center role is in the 12 to 15-minute range. I mean, he had 17 against the Tampa Bay Lightning, so good on him. Is that the most he's played all year? Oh no, he had an 18-minute game against the Washington Capitals in January. But you're getting a lot more bang for your buck with the defenseman. So I can understand why, like a David Savard or somebody could go for a first-round pick. He also is right-handed as well. But Jake Evans, I mean, a first-round pick, if there would have been an offer for that, they probably would have accepted it by now. If they want a second, at least a second-rounder, I'm thinking maybe a second and a fifth, really? Or a second and a fourth, or a second and an interesting B-minus, B-tier prospect for Jake Evans. It's getting really interesting when you dive into what these offers could look like, as well as if you combine Joel Armia. I do think that Armia is a significant wildcard here when it comes to the Montreal Canadiens and their potential trade chips, because I really like that idea of packaging them together. I don't know what it is. Like, there's already chemistry there. There's already familiarity. There's already a lot to like out of Armia and Evans as a package. So if Montreal is not getting that first or maybe even the second rounder that they want for Jake Evans, what if it's like, okay, another team is calling Montreal. You don't want to give us a second. What about you give us a first and we give you Armia too? What if it's Jake Evans and Joel Armia for a first and maybe a C-plus prospect? Like, I honestly do think that Armia and Evans together is worth a little more than a first-round pick. I don't know about you, but there is so much value in being able to get that chemistry on the penalty kill. If a team is already struggling on the PK and they're a playoff caliber team, why not go out there and target 2 of the best penalty killers as a duo in the NHL? In fact, let's go out there and do that. Let's take a look at some of these NHL teams and the penalty killing. Can we go over to standings? Or no, not standings. We'll do stats. And then, okay, this is not what we're looking for. Let's do stats over here. Okay, no, we cannot do that here. Teams, and then we'll go over to penalty kill. All right. So, the best team in the NHL in PK is Carolina. Let's scroll down here to some of the lower tier teams. Hey, Edmonton. Edmonton is one of the worst teams in the NHL when it comes to the PK, and they are a playoff contender. Okay, interesting. Oh, Detroit. Sucks to see for the Detroit Red Wings. Vegas. Vegas. 76.9% on the PK. Could they get an Armia and an Evans? I don't know. We just gotta wait for somebody to go in the LTIR, and then they could do that. Florida is a middle-of-the-pack team. Winnipeg is over here, too. Toronto, Colorado. Yeah, there are a decent amount of teams that could use some penalty-killing support. So if Jake Evans is available, hey, this could be your guy. Joel Armia, also available. Maybe get them as a duo. Give Kent Hughes that first-round pick that he's looking for. But for now, it does seem like, according to Pierre LeBrun, we are looking more towards a trade rather than a re-signing here. Let me know in the comments what you think about this Pierre LeBrun trade update. I hope you enjoyed this video. And bye.